Hey, everybody. This is your daily dose of all things royal. Well, hello, my gorgeous, good looking friends. It certainly has been a while since my last video. And for those that are interested in knowing the status of Gizzy, my little dog, the very end, I provide an update if you care to make it through and are interested in hearing about it. Now, on with the show. This humorous work of art had me thinking. As I look at the 3 books before this book in January is going to drop, I became quite curious. What was Harry saying prior to his life getting turned upside down with the devil? I decided to take a look at Angela Levin's book that was written in 2018. Now, I picked Angela's book because out of the 3 authors, she has been the most vocal around calling out the hypocrisy of Harry and Meghan. Angela Levin spent a considerable amount of time with Harry, following him around and having many interviews to get details for this biography. So we're wondering, what is this book going to be about that's going to be released in January? Well, according to People magazine, Prince Harry's forthcoming memoir promises to be an intimate and heartfelt look into the experiences, adventures, losses, and life lessons that have helped shape him. I took the opportunity to read Angela Levin's book this weekend. From what she wrote, it's pretty intimate, it's pretty detailed, and not sure what else would be included into this new book. How many ways can Harry talk about the memory of walking behind Diana's coffin? The only thing that I can see of interest would be now the added commentary around the Queen's death and the funeral. I suppose he might correlate that back to when he was 12 and walking behind his mother's coffin to how he felt walking behind the Queen's coffin. In this video, I want to pull out some key points that Angela Levin writes about because I do believe that it will come up as topics within Harry's memoir in January. So to get everybody up to speed with what Harry said pre-Meghan and what he was experiencing and sharing with Angela Levin directly, I'd like to summarize some key important points that I believe will come up in his memoir. Most likely, Harry will be trying to rewrite history and follow in the footsteps of his wife, who is notorious for doing the same. I would like to emphasize that this book was published in May of 2018, before any of us knew anything about the deceptions of Meghan Markle. And Angela did a great job of showing Harry's best light and showing him as a person who was empathetic, who was really trying to do something in this world, but also telling his story of what he faced growing up as a child and how he had to cope and manage. I mean, it really is an honest representation. And I don't think that Angela Levin had anything to gain to write anything fictitious. She has always been forthcoming in the media with what was going on. Even up to today, she has admitted that Harry is not the same person that she knew when she was writing this book. So obviously, we're going to see some dramatic shifts in Harry's memoir. But we know for starters, Harry's upbringing is going to be called into question. And Angela does a great job at talking about Diana and the troubled marriage that she had with Charles and the environment that William and Harry both grew up in and the effects that it would take psychologically on these 2 children. First, I want to address the title of this book, Spare, and where it possibly came from or how it came to be that this was going to be the title of this book. That title represents, in my opinion, his resentment towards William. And this is a resentment that didn't exist prior to Meghan Markle showing up. I believe Harry's resentment towards his family had been manifested through the wife and the people that he's been surrounded by. And I truly believe that Meghan is like that snake in the Jungle Book whispering, like saying, you know what, Harry? They didn't see you. You were just a spare. You were there in case something happened, but Nobody paid attention to you. And Meghan, the manipulator, knows exactly what triggers Harry, and she uses it against him or uses it in a way to manipulate him. So Angela writes in her book, the reality was that Diana had now done her duty by efficiently and quickly reinforcing the future of the monarchy by providing both an heir to the throne and a standby. But she understandably hated the way Harry was insensitively often called the spare. Diana's strong maternal instinct and innate sense of fairness made her determined that both princes would be treated equally and both would share the limelight. She said, royal firstborns may get all the glory, but secondborns enjoy more freedom. Only when Harry is a lot older will he realize how lucky he is not to have been the eldest. When the boys were young, she tried to make sure that they were photographed together as much as possible. It was one of the few things she and Prince Charles agreed on. So there you go, guys. Diana, Princess of Wales, was very conscious, as well as Prince Charles at the time, to ensure that Prince Harry and Prince William were treated as equal growing up. The challenge here, such a unique challenge, is that Prince William's future was defined and what he was supposed to do in life. Now, Harry, it wasn't defined, and he was pretty much left to his own devices to choose a path on what he was to become or do. That afforded Harry more freedom than William. And don't you think that William might have been jealous of Harry because Harry got to do whatever he wanted and William couldn't because he was going to be king someday? I could see that happening. Added into the mix, Angela explains that at the time when Harry and William were growing up and Charles and Diana had separated, Harry didn't have the unenviable role of man of the house. But when William went to boarding school, Diana sought comfort in his presence. She took him with her wherever she could, and particularly if there was a royal family event she had to attend. Once there, she would often cling to him like a human comfort blanket. She showered him with love and kisses, and the bond between them grew even stronger. Harry is much more emotional than his brother, but gave me the impression that he suffered slightly less than William from her sometimes desperate need for him, but perhaps even more than his brother from her loss. So, as you can see, at a very early age, Harry was coddled by Diana, and Harry almost became the security blanket for Diana as she was going through so much dysfunction in her family life. It's not fair to say that the word spare is the reason why Harry's turned out so upside down. You have to add in that Harry was raised, as a child, just like William, but William was a couple years older. Harry was at this age where his home life was dysfunctional. His parents were arguing all the time. He most likely saw some of the darkest moments that his mother had ever gone through and trying to process that as a child. At least William was a little bit more mature to understand that things were just not working out. And sometimes this happens in life. But then also add into the mix, the one closest to Harry ends up dying so early in life and taken away from him, someone who he also saw as kind of like a security blanket and that was there to nurture him and guide him, now was no longer there. So add all those things into the mix. Understandably, psychologically, Harry had not had the best experience growing up. And after Diana died, the royal family, in their minds, did the best that they could to give everything to both these children to be raised. And even Charles did what he could do to his best ability. There was so much focus with William as being the heir, and Harry was sort of left to the wayside in the sense of tending to his emotional and psychological needs. He carried on with the job, and same with William. And on the surface, perhaps maybe the family thought they were doing okay, but remember, the royal family is not known for being touchy-feely into emotions and sharing feelings. They're very reserved and you kind of keep it all inside. And I think that that's where the problem lay. It manifested into Harry's anger, it manifested into not being interested, and it just going out of control because there was not much nurturing or interest in what Harry wanted to do and what he wanted to become. He was given every opportunity and they helped him, but they didn't really guide him, if that makes any sense. When you look at the dynamic between Harry and his brother William growing up, we have to keep in mind that the royal family is still a family. As with any family, your birth order does shape part of your personality. Just because Harry and William were born into a life of privilege doesn't mean that they didn't have the normal fighting amongst siblings as well as rebelling against rules and so forth. Let's also throw into the mix that these two boys grew up in a household where their mother and father's affairs were on front pages of newspapers and television. That had to have been quite stressful on them going to school, especially if everyone knows about it and they're talking about it. As is growing up during that time, for William and Harry, they were entering into their teens. And the last thing you want to hear is a recording of your father to his mistress saying that he wanted to be a tampon, or seeing an interview of your mother talking about how sad and miserable she was in this marriage with your father, and then exposing your father's extramarital affair as well as your own affairs with people that you had no idea your mom was running around with. That had to have been really embarrassing, but also really sad to see your own mother having to go on TV and expose herself in the most vulnerable way. Now, I'm not saying all of this to give justification for him to go off the rails in this book that's about to come out. I'm just giving a little bit of color as to how could Harry get to this point to where he feels the need to lash out in this book. So, as Harry is trying to sell this book as an intimate and heartfelt look into the experiences or adventures, as well as the losses, you can bet that the loss of his mother will be a core feature of the book. Harry has pretty much defined himself as the 12-year-old boy who had to walk behind his mother's coffin. He has repeated it so much, he has forced everyone to see him as this poor boy who was forced at such a young age to grieve in front of the world, in which he tells Angela in this book that he was not able to cry in front of people. He kept a very straight face and was not able to show his emotion. I reflect back on the two deaths that we have seen recently between Harry's grandfather and his grandmother now, that he didn't show any kind of real emotion. Yes, his face was very serious. It actually at times looked very angry, but it was not a grief that you would expect of somebody that you truly loved. I mean, seriously, how heartbroken is he really over the Queen's death, since he turned down the invite that she extended to him and his wife a couple days before she died, and they declined, as well as they chose to take the opportunity to harass the family for those stupid titles for the kids. Totally inappropriate. To me, that just shows that he could care less about the death of his family and want to get what's owed to him, which is money, 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 money. Now, I certainly believe that somewhere in his head, he has turned off the ability to feel that kind of pain again. Two other areas that will be pillars within this book are mental health and the military. And at this point, this will be the area as to where he will be taking shots at his brother and his father. Now, let's remember he took digs at both his father and brother on the Oprah interview when he called them trapped in the life that they're living. The title of this book is an indicator as to the direction the book is going to go in. Right out the gate, it's negative, and it's being directed towards the family, particularly his brother. Harry, backed by his lying, manipulative, conniving wife, have not let go of the fact that William told Harry to take it slow with, at the time, this girl. Meghan Markle is 100% responsible for the wedge that was driven between Harry and his brother. Being the narcissist that Meghan is, she was jealous of the relationship that Harry had with his brother because that tight bond should only be with her. Add Catherine into the mix of it, and Catherine didn't like her, there's no way that she would allow Harry to continue having any relationship with him. So what do narcissists do? They get in the middle of things and they cause problems. And this is why we have this ongoing feud. William was really the first family member to confront Harry about Meghan's bad behavior. So initially, when William learned about Meghan's treatment of their staff collectively, he went straight to Harry and confronted him, but not blaming Meghan. He was actually blaming Harry for not telling Meghan how they are supposed to be treating the employees. Sort of like, Harry, you didn't train the new hire employee on the basic rules of human decency, which is probably what raised the red flag for Prince William to ask Harry if he was sure about this girl and maybe he should take it a little bit slower. And this set Harry off because at that point, Meghan didn't get the tiara that she wanted, and Harry got scolded by his grandmother. Also, Meghan was put in her place by the Queen when she was going over the menu and freaked out because she thought that there was egg in one of the dishes. So Harry was defensive and he saw it as William not wanting Harry to marry this girl. And in his mind, probably thinking this girl was disrespectful to Meghan in the sense that they didn't take Meghan seriously or respected her, which I'm sure Meghan many times whispered into Harry's ear, saying, "You see, they don't respect me." Well, we know that she demanded to only deal with senior aides, not the junior ones, because she felt that it was disrespectful. So, whatever the case is, Harry was in his head thinking that the family just did not want to accept her into the family, and he blew up at William, accusing him of not wanting his brother to be happy. Now, we all know that Harry is extremely jealous of his relationship and perfect life with his wife and their beautiful children. And of course, that was something that Harry also wanted. He didn't want to continue being that third wheel. And we all know that Meghan dangled the "I'm going to break up with you, Harry," when she didn't get what she wanted. The truth is, the bitch wasn't going anywhere. And she needed to get Harry down the aisle as quickly as possible before Harry could see the real Meghan Markle, who was not the sweet, shy humanitarian that he was thinking he was marrying. But here we are. Before Harry got ensnared by this money grabbing vulture, he was actually finding a groove and a purpose with the work he was doing, joining forces with his brother and sister in law. I have to say that Catherine joining the family has been such a positive influence on both the brothers, especially William. Now, William also, too, had to deal with a tough upbringing and some of the experiences that he had. We'll never know, but he shares that with his brother. Catherine was able to give William the family stability that he so desperately needed and also lift him up to be a better version of himself. There's no doubt in my mind that Harry equally wanted the same in whoever he was going to settle down with. And unfortunately, Harry got tricked into marrying a woman who he thought was going to be a team player, but instead turned out to be a complete nightmare. The Meghan effect, or I would say the reverse Midas touch, turned Harry into a miserable, tense, sulky, and emasculated man. They have that saying, love is blind, but in this situation, I feel like Meghan roofied Harry the last 5 years. And only now I think he's waking up to seeing what a mess his life has become. What many of us are not talking about, which I don't understand why, is the effects that this whole debacle and comedic tragedy that we're witnessing in real time has been taking on these phantom children. If there are children that do exist, it's no doubt that this genetic pain that Harry has been griping on and about is most definitely being passed on to Archie and Lily, if they do exist. History is most definitely repeating itself, but not in the way that Harry thinks it is, with people chasing his wife. In fact, nobody even cares about what happens to the wife. He's failing to realize that the dysfunctional family unit that they have set up in Montecito is not the best environment for those kids, and the negativity from all of the lying, the scheming, the arguments that are being reported coming out of that house, as well as never seen spending time with them or bringing them around any family, has denied them essentially of their birthright. It's denying them of a normal life, and the isolation combined with living in misery under the rule of two very toxic parents. The kids are going to need a lot of therapy. It's a guarantee that Archie and Lily, if they exist, are going to end up hating their mother. Meghan Markle never did care to be a part of the monarchy. She wanted the title, money, and status to be used in the United States to build brand Meghan, not Meghan and Harry. It's brand Meghan. And those kids, they are her lifelong tie to this royal family, and also the insurance policy so she can be set up for life. Now, in Angela Levin's book, it was mentioned Meghan, being the ambitious, strong, independent woman that she is, was appalled that the Queen would suggest that Harry and Meghan sign a prenuptial agreement to protect Harry's money from Meghan after she wore a £56,000 gown to take her engagement photo. Meghan was so upset, according to a source, wink wink, that the thought that Meghan would have an ulterior motive for marrying Harry had crossed her mind. Angela does write that growing up, Harry was not the most bright and academic person, nor did he really think things through. And this is a perfect example of where this is definitely going to come back and bite him in the ass. We all know that this book was written before the Queen passed away, so the things that were said most likely were to appease his wife in order to save this sham of a marriage that he has going on. I think that the Queen's death was a wake up call for Harry in realizing that he married the devil. He is, if not already, resenting and regretting that he married this woman. If the rumors are true that Meghan was the reason for why Harry could not say goodbye to his grandmother on her deathbed, then he is going to hold it against her, and he's going to take out his anger on her. And God, I hope that that anger are the changes that Harry was making to the book, and he takes it out on her in this public way. I think that would be the most epic revenge that we could see, and payback for a woman who's caused so much destruction and so much harm and hurt. If the marriage is on its out, tell the truth, Harry. It will set you free. That's the least that you could do for your grandmother, to redeem at least a small part of the role that you played in accelerating her demise. Don't think that Meghan hasn't thought about writing a book about Harry as part of her exit strategy. We all know that the deal that they signed with Penguin is slated for 4 books, and Meghan is supposed to take one of them. So, what is she going to write about? Well, she's not going to write about the family anymore because they could possibly come after her and sue her. I think the next logical step is to write about Harry and plan her exit divorce. I personally think that Harry needs to stay ahead of it, but it might be too late because Meghan is always 10 steps ahead and probably already has the first draft written up. I do think, though, that this is my opinion. Harry is so far down the rabbit hole, he could easily get out of it. You know that. Just by leaving this woman behind and apologizing to his family as well as the people of the UK and go away for a little bit. But he's not going to do that because of his ego. Harry knows his wife is a fraud. I'm almost certain of it, but will not leave her because she most likely is dangling another threat to keep him from leaving her. The family is not going to take him back into the fold unless he dumps this woman. Let's also remember that Harry is Diana's son, and Diana didn't want a divorce. And I highly doubt that Harry wants a divorce. Even though he is miserable, he would rather stay in it and try to make it work in hopes that she would change. But we all know that that will never happen because Meghan cannot put anybody above herself as priority. What is dangerous about this is staying in a marriage where the environment is toxic and also abusive, which then does take an effect onto the children. And here we have history repeating itself all over again, as if Harry was now Diana. Even though Harry had a very unique upbringing, as well as dysfunctional, you have to remember that his brother also went through a similar circumstance. Now, although Prince William has a defined path, he still found purpose in putting other people first, such as his children, his wife. This is something that Harry, as a grown adult, mature adult, should be doing, and he's not. Instead, he is continuing to behave selfishly as well as unethically. Does anyone think this is going to work? No, I don't. I think it's going to backfire immensely, and I'm here for it to report on it. And I think that this will be the demise of this couple. If anything, it's going to fracture and break that marriage completely. Meghan's not going to want to stay in a relationship where there's now really no value to her. And in fact, her brand and his brand have tanked so far down that staying together now is actually making them sort of like kryptonite. Nobody wants to go near them or touch them. And there's only so much they can do once the money runs out. And this is what I had said last year. The only way that this nonsense is going to stop is once the opportunities stop and the money stops coming in. Leave your thoughts on what you guys think is going to happen, and I'll catch you next time. For those that are interested, you can hang on for a couple more minutes, is a personal update about my dog Gizzy. In addition to my computer frustration, my dog has been sick since the beginning of September. So Gizzy is almost 11 years old, and he is a silky Yorkie. For his entire life up until now, he has always had a clean bill of health. So at the beginning of September, he started to accumulate water in his lungs, and he went through a series of tests, and the doctor initially, they thought that he had congestive heart failure. To make a long story short, as I don't want to bore you guys, Gizzy has been in and out of ICU. After this initial diagnosis, Gizzy started to have internal GI problems, which caused him to vomit and caused him to also hemorrhage out the other end, which was not pleasant, as you can see here, warning. When this happened, immediately had to take him back to this veterinarian hospital, where he had to be contained in an oxygen tank and hooked up to IVs. And what was frustrating to me was that the cost was put as the deciding factor by the doctors. The fact that it was going to cost thousands of dollars to save the dog, that was the first thing that they wanted to confirm with me before they went ahead and treated him. And in the initial phases, you're in an emotional state and you don't really think. You think that it's not going to be the estimate that they're giving to you. And you say, no, go ahead. In my mind, I couldn't make the decision to put Gizzy down without trying, or put him down because I couldn't afford it. And that, it was a hard thing to take in, where you know that they can save him, but if they save him, it's going to cost thousands of dollars. Now, the initial quotation that they gave when they first assessed him when he came in, for all that they were planning to do, the estimate was $6,000. Yeah, at that time, I was like, 6,000, that's a shitload of money, a lot. But I was like, we'll figure it out. And yeah, I opened up this care credit card and we put it on it. So that happened. And I really thought that that 6,000 was going to go far. But Gizzy started to have setbacks where he, once they stopped the hemorrhaging, then he wouldn't eat. And then if he did have appetite and he ate, then he would start to regurgitate. And got so bad to when he was regurgitating that he started vomiting blood. And that was a big concern. And, I had to make the decision, do we continue with treatment? And here we are now with a bill that's escalating now past 10 grand. And at that point, I'm saying to myself, well, if we're going to go down this path and all this money that just has been invested into trying to get Gizzy back, it might as well keep going. Because that would be essentially like, if pragmatics wise, if you said, all right, do I want to put this dog down because it's now costing this much more money? Got to look at, you've already invested 10 grand. You might as well keep going, especially if the doctor is saying that they are hopeful that they will be able to stabilize. So, and there wasn't like at that moment a threat where I had to think about putting him down. But, again, cost then comes back into the mix. And another 4 grand later, I was able to take Gizzy home. So right now we're in a place where I am caring for him 24/7. He's still very weak. He has a cocktail of medication that he will be on short term in order to at least get him regulated from his GI tract. He, had a severe amount of vomiting that caused ulcers and rips in his throat. That's how bad it was that, he is still healing from that. Now, he does have his moments where he is from time to time still regurgitating, but, we are trying to make it easy for him to eat and make it easy for him to drink so he can gain back his strength, which is what is happening day by day. And yesterday, he was bright eyed, he was sitting up, and, it just feels very positive that we're going in the right direction. We're still not out of the woods, but I'm doing everything that I possibly can. So I want to say a big thank you to everybody who has shared their warm wishes and blessings. For all those who have been generously donating to Super Thanks, I want you to know that the money that you have contributed has been going towards Gizzy's care. And I can't tell you how grateful I am for everyone who has helped me out in that respects. And finally, I'd like to thank 2 content creators who, if you don't know them or aware of them, you should check them out. To Megan's Mole and Queen Gertie. Both ladies have been truly kind and thoughtful of me over the last 2 months as they were aware that I had been going through this. So I give them a big thank you and share my gratitude. If you guys don't know them, please go check them out. They definitely are talented and they are hilarious. So, on that note, have a happy Halloween, and I will be back tomorrow with some more content. Until then, everyone, bye.
I was such a fraud.